We're back on the early edge right here on CBS Sports Network, and I've got Mike and Danny Brasco with me. Let's talk some player props. This is my favorite segment of the show. I got to be honest, I've been on a bit of a cold streak, but you gentlemen maybe can pick me up. Let's talk about some passing props. And Danny, I'm going to start with you. We expect this game between the Chargers and the Eagles to be relatively, tentative, relatively low scoring, maybe some running involved. You don't like passing overs, do you?
I don't. We've seen both teams struggle with offensive line issues, and I'm looking at Jalen Hurts to go under 193 and a half passing yards in this game. He's under this mark in 6 games this season. And if you look at his 4 best games in which he threw for 250 plus passing yards, the Eagles are 1-3 in those games. That's not the way that this offense needs to run. They need to run efficiently behind that run game and really not take their chances. He's built his game around not turning the ball over and not being too risky. So I think that the Chargers defense, who runs, like I mentioned earlier, the 3rd highest zone coverage scheme in the NFL, are going to limit Hurts and make him have to dink and dunk, have to go underneath, and that's going to result in a pretty low total for his passing yards this game.
Mike, you agree with this play?
Yeah, completely agree. It's the zone scheme that you're likely to see dinking and dunking, but it's the run game. As Danny mentioned, the success for the Philadelphia Eagles, it almost always is going to come from the running game. And I think this is a great opportunity for them to really get back to it a little bit. You got long rest for that offensive line, played on Friday last week, all the way to Monday here. And they get to play indoors in a controlled environment. And I know we think of offensive linemen as like gritty guys wanting to play outdoors in the elements. Trust me, it's very comfortable to play indoors, particularly at this time of the season. So I think this is a running game first. I will go under on Jalen Hurts passing yards.
I'm going to agree that this is a running game first, and we'll get to rushing props in just a second. But I think it's a running game first on both sides of the ball. I mean, I think it's captain obvious for me to say they're going to protect Justin Herbert because of his broken hand, and they're really going to lean into the running game. But also, we saw, the Bears leaning into the running game for, 250 plus, 280 plus yards against the Philadelphia Eagles. No Jalen Carter. We're going to see Omarion Hampton back in this game. We're going to see Kamani Vidal get probably a pretty significant role as well. I think that means, especially in a relatively neutral game script, not as many pass attempts for one Justin Herbert. I like his under 32 and a half pass attempts at minus 125. All right, well, if we're leaning into rushing, we're leaning into rushing props. Mike, you know who hasn't had a big game this season, or at least not a lot of big games? Saquon Barkley. Is this the time where the line is low enough where maybe we can jump on it over?
I think so. You talk about the way the Chargers want to defend, but I really think it's Philadelphia philosophy. I think they want to get back to running the football. And I think, again, when you have like holiday week, you've got the additional time because of the scheduling. I think it serves as a nice little reset for this team offensively. And I think Saquon gets there through volume. I also think that if you get to the start of this game and there is any concern with Justin Herbert and the way he looks, there may be that extra urge on the side of Philly to be a little more conservative and run the football a little more. The number, though, 69 and a half, a guy who's routinely had numbers in the 80s and 90s. I think it's a great buy low opportunity here on Saquon.
I totally agree on the buy low for Saquon Barkley here. I'm actually going to go with Omarion Hampton. I can't really say this is a buy low, but I mean, it kind of is. He's only 43 and a half rushing yards. The problem is we don't exactly know how much work he's going to get versus Kamani Vidal. When I looked at the rush attempt props, just so everybody knows, Kamani is in that 9.5 rushing attempt range, and Omarion Hampton is in the 11.5 range. I like Omarion's over rushing attempts, but I think I'm going to take the yards just because of how I think this Eagles front can get gashed a little bit. In spite of the fact that we've got both tackles out for the Chargers, the offensive line appears to have gelled a little bit over the last couple of weeks, figuring some stuff out. So I've got Omarion Hampton over 43 and a half rushing yards. And Danny, you've got Justin Herbert over yards.
This is a bold bet because I'm either going to look really wrong or really right. But I think this guy is dog tough, and I think he might be forced to run in this game. Yes, he's going to be protecting that injured hand, but we just saw Aaron Rodgers with a fractured wrist run one in for the first time in 3 years. Doesn't mean that he can't still scramble to the outside, slide, hit the boundary, and go out of bounds. This is a low total, 17 and a half yards. He's over this in 9 of 12 games. Like I mentioned, of course, if he's really nursing that hand, he's forced to go only shotgun formations, and maybe he's just throwing the ball away out of the pocket, then this could be wrong. But against Nolan Smith now, who's back for the Eagles, since acquiring Jalen Phillips, the pass rush has been much better, and this Chargers offensive line has just struggled to protect Herbert. So I think he may be forced to run despite the injury, and this low total, which he's hit in 9 of 12 games this season, could come through.
So I'm regretting not being on Patrick Mahomes rushing yards yesterday as somebody who was on his over attempts, which he almost got there. But yeah, to your point, Danny, I only bring that up because if the pass rush gets there, we know Justin Herbert's, going to have to escape. And that's exactly what Patrick Mahomes did very successfully last night. Receiving props, I'm going to go. So, Danny, we're kind of on the same thing. I'm going to go with A.J. Brown over 60.5 receiving yards. We know the Chargers, and I know you referenced this earlier, Danny, play a ton of zone. And normally that's not necessarily the spot for A.J. Brown, but as of late, it really has been. And I think 60.5 receiving yards is really doable. I think it's somewhat of an efficient line, but I honestly think this is a volume game for A.J. Brown, and it really only just has to have, one long reception. If he's going to have 4 or 5, maybe 6 catches, really 120-yard reception will easily get him over this. So, Danny Brasco, you do like the receptions for A.J. Brown.
I totally agree with all the points you made. He's got over 4.5 receptions, I should say 5+ in 7 out of 11 games he's played in this season. And the squeaky wheel gets the grease. This guy was kicking and screaming about his role and his usage in the offense. And over the past 3 games, he's got 25 receptions on 33 targets, almost 300 receiving yards, a couple touchdowns as well. They're involving him now. And even, in games that the Eagles have not won, he's getting the ball, and he's quiet now. So he's just happy to be producing and getting his numbers, I think. They're going to keep feeding him the rock. Like you mentioned, zone coverage. I think he certainly gets that 5th catch. So I like this line. I'll lay the juice.
It's certainly such a condensed target share still with the Eagles, with basically AJB, Devonta, and a little bit of Dallas Goedert. All right, let's get to Keenan Allen, Mike. Now, we don't exactly have a condensed target share here, but I mentioned it on the morning show on the SportsLine YouTube channel this morning that if there was a receiver I was interested in among, let's say, Oronde Gadsden, who I understand is a tight end, Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey, and Quentin Johnston, it probably would be, from a volume standpoint, it probably would be Keenan Allen.
Yeah, and I think with Keenan Allen as someone you always want to be really telling yourself a story in terms of game script that can get there. And this is one that I think can get there. I like the Eagles side a little more, obviously, here. So I'm looking for maybe a trailing game script. And why Keenan Allen? Look, if they're trailing, they likely haven't hit the deep shot to Q or very often, right? They're likely putting a lot of attention on Ladd McConkey. Keenan Allen is the guy that can find the little soft spot. He's made a living doing it. And he frankly has gone over this number routinely in games that they have lost or been extremely competitive in. And that's what I'm expecting tonight. The veteran Keenan Allen at this point, I thought the number should have been 41. Now, the other piece of advice I would give here is if they do fall behind and he doesn't have receptions early, look for this number to come down to 26, 27 on a live line potentially. That's where I'd really want to be buying in. If this team is down by a score or more late, Keenan Allen will get peppered with targets.
So you mentioned Quentin Johnston. Let's get to our game and team props. We got some anytime touchdowns from you two, which we'll get to in a second. But Danny, you have dubbed this NEVCOR, negative correlation plays. Mike, you and I have talked about this a lot just this entire year, how fun these plays are. I hit one last week on Darius Slayton. I think it was at 38-1. So I'm going to offer this up. This is not a 1-unit play. This is like you sprinkle 0.1, 0.2 units on it. I'm going a negative correlated Quentin Johnston over 50+. So 50+ receiving yards, which is an alt line. You take his under 3.5 receptions and you add an anytime touchdown. That's going to pay 23-1. Again, 50+ receiving yards, under 3.5 receptions, and an anytime touchdown. Basically, what I'm looking for is low volume, but one deep shot to Quentin Johnston where he catches a touchdown. Maybe that deep shot accounts for the 50 yards. Maybe it only accounts for 35 or 40 yards, but he gets there with 1 or 2 more catches, but not 4. We actually hit this. This is the first negative correlation play we hit this season. I think it was week 1, and it was on Quentin Johnston. At that time, it was 22-1. Now we're playing with 23-1. Danny, talk to me about an anytime touchdown play.
I was trying to recall that because I remember I bet on it and it was incredible when it came through. So it was QJ that came through. Let's get it again, Sia. Yeah, I think A.J. Brown also finds pay dirt in this game. Like I mentioned, just demanding to be used in this offense. I think maybe they get down near the goal line and throw him a little one-on-one to the boundary. I think Jalen Hurts will be looking to avoid Derwin James over the middle of the field, who's just a Hawkeye safety. So A.J. Brown's side of the field, I think, one-on-one ball, he gets a touchdown. Plus 180, pretty good odds.
I love that number. I think if the Eagles score 2 touchdowns, I'm just kind of like talking, right? I think one of them is A.J. Brown. And Mike, I think the other one, I'm not just saying this because these are your picks. I think the other one is one Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I like the number here. See, again, ultimate buy low spot. We've seen the numbers move drastically on Saquon across the board in every single market. I keep going back to the fact that it's an indoor game, controlled environment, huge for offensive linemen at this point in the year, particularly on long rest. When you look at Saquon's number, though, plus 110 for an anytime touchdown, I've still got him at 56%, which is minus 127. A rare edge on an anytime touchdown scorer who's routinely had lines minus 175 up to minus 200, even playing in this offense alongside Jalen Hurts and the tush push. I think this is, again, the ultimate buy low spot on Saquon Barkley on long rest, plus 110.
Let's close this segment out with some first touchdown plays. Again, these are more of the gimmicky sprinkle variety. I'm going to go with A.J. Brown. Danny, you and I have been talking about A.J. Brown for the last 5-10 minutes. I think plus 900 is actually a pretty decent number on A.J. Brown. I don't know. Like, I kind of lean the Chargers in this game. I don't know who I expect to score first, frankly, and who's going to win this game. We'll talk about that in the next segment. But again, condensed target share, A.J. Brown against zone's been pretty good. I'll take the plus 900 there. Danny, you're taking the tight end, the third option, if you will.
I think I have to take Dallas Goedert anytime touchdown just straight as well, but I think he could get in first at plus 1,400 here. He's been a frequent red zone target for Jalen Hurts, and the Chargers have been pretty weak against opposing tight ends. Consecutive tight ends, game after game, continue to score on them. So look for Goedert maybe on that tricky little shovel pass they like inside the 5-yard line. He could get in first.
And Mike, if we have that Saquon breakout game, it's Saquon scoring the first touchdown.
Yeah, I think it starts early. Again, just the number plus 600 here with a timeshare, I will say, on the other side, potentially or likely in a running back situation. This is a number where if there was a true starting running back on the other side, just a number one and Saquon, the number's routinely been plus 400 to plus 450. We're catching plus 600 now while still having the timeshare on the other side. I think it's a big sign here. I think there's a lot of value on Saquon. You saw it where I have his number on the anytime. It just same kind of situation here on the first touchdown plus 600.
All right. Saquon Barkley at plus 600. We got A.J. Brown at plus 900 and Dallas Goedert at plus 1,400. I think you know where we think the first touchdown is coming from, probably the Philadelphia Eagles. But who's actually going to cover the spread? What's going on with the total? It's a pretty low total. Are we going to hit the over? Are we going to hit the under? And how about some team totals or first half bets? That's all coming up next on The Early Edge. How about we discuss some sides and totals for Monday Night Football? It's Chargers, it's Eagles. It's a 2-point spread and a 41.5-point total. Mike, I'll start with you here. In terms of the spread, are we laying the points with the Eagles? Because it kind of sounded like that from the previous prop conversation.
You know, I certainly lean towards the spread. I just simply played the money line here at a price point of minus 130. I would play it all the way up to minus 145 personally. But I do expect, some of a tighter competitive game most of the way out. I do like the Eagles side, though. When I look at this spot, talked about it at length really throughout the show. The long rest at this point in the season is a big deal, particularly around holidays like this. I also like the fact that they're playing indoors. While I don't expect Jalen Hurts to be out there slinging the ball all around all night, he is a much better quarterback playing indoors. A very large sample size of the completion percentage, jumping 10% to almost 75% for his entire career when playing indoors. To me, it makes sense. He likes to not be in the cold. He grew up in the South, played in the South. I think this is a great spot to back Philly while the sentiment is at an all-time low.
All right, we got the Eagles money line at minus 130. Maybe play it as high as minus 145 if that's where you see it. Danny, where are you leaning?
I would agree with the points Mike made. I lean towards the Eagles money line, but I can't bet it personally because this team, just the eye test, they're not passing it. I really have, trust issues with this offense without Lane Johnson. Over the last decade with him, 96-41 with him in the lineup, without 12-25. And Nick Sirianni and the Eagles aren't always a shoe-in off the bounce back. After a loss under Sirianni, they're 8-15 against the spread the following game. So, I got to see it before I bet it. And I do think the Eagles will win this game because at any moment they are capable of returning to championship form. But like I said, I want to see it first.
My lean is to the Chargers +2. And it's because of Danny, you mentioned it, the eye test. I just can't look past what I've seen from the Eagles defensively. Again, Jalen Carter not playing in this game, but I understand their secondary and their defense is still stout. But I feel like the Chargers are going to be able to establish the running game. Justin Herbert's going to be able to do just enough where this really, to me, is a coin flip. And so I'm just going to go ahead and take the +2. But I absolutely appreciate, Mike, your argument, and Danny, your argument. Let's talk about the total under, Danny Brasco.
Yeah, the under is the play in this game. The only concern I have is Mike's mention of the indoor environment. You know, they can sometimes be track meets, but this game does not set up to be one because both defenses do what they should do against these opposing quarterbacks. The Chargers playing a top zone coverage in the league against Hurts. That's how you limit him. And on the other side, the Eagles playing a high dose of man coverage, which is how you limit Justin Herbert. Of course, Herbert's dealing with that hand injury. They may go run heavy to protect him, look to exploit the Eagles there because the Eagles' secondary is elite. And you might get just a chewing of the clock. I think the Eagles are going to do the same thing on the offensive side of the ball for themselves. You know, the Chargers are a run funnel. They're top 10 pass DVOA defense, but bottom 7 in run defense DVOA. So if the Eagles maybe can try to get that rush attack going, we're just seeing both teams bleed clock, keep possession. We think Hurts is going to have a low passing total. You know, we have the Herbert injury concern and two strong defenses. This is going to be another ugly one. I think just like the Chiefs-Texans game, this one goes under 41.5.
Yeah, I'm going to co-sign all of that. I lean to the under in spite of it being super low here at 41.5. Mike, talk to me about an Eagles team total.
Yeah, I'm going to go over on the Eagles team total, guys. Very much in on the Philadelphia Eagles tonight. 21.5, the number at even money. You could find it at 20.5. Pay some juice if you'd like. I ultimately think the number here for them tonight is 23 or 24. I love the fact that they're indoors in that controlled environment. I've talked about it all show. I like the fact that they've dropped 2 in a row. They did that earlier in the season as well. They dropped 2 games in a row, then had to go play on the road in a dome against Minnesota, a game that many thought, oh my gosh, are we going to lose 3 in a row? Nope. They came out, played extremely well because Jalen Hurts plays well in a dome. I love the spot for them. So I think, again, the number 23 or 24 is where the Eagles land tonight.
All right, let's go to a team total or first half bet. I'm going to go with the Chargers first half plus a half at -118. Again, I do think this is a bit of a coin flip situation. I think Justin Herbert's going to play all 4 quarters. But to the extent something gets aggravated, maybe it's in the second half and it's not in the first half. But again, because I think it's a coin flip situation, I'll take the plus a half so that a tie, I still win the bet here. Mike, you're looking at a first half. I know you like the team total for the Eagles. You're looking at their first half team total as well.
Yeah, take it over 10.5 at +110. Classic case, just indoor controlled environment, looking for that touchdown and 2 field goals. Field goals a lot easier to kick here. We know Elliott's kicked from 60 yards before. It's going to be a lot easier kicking in this environment than at home in Philly. So just the number, just being pro Eagles in this spot, I ultimately think they land at 13 or 14 here. Give me the over 10.5 at plus money.